that's a good one. I have a new joke, and it's very immature. But I wouldn't say it's from a specific event, but it's informed by a specific event. I'll tell you the actual event, then I'll tell you the joke. My brother was he was a bully when I was growing up. And then we have a great relationship now. But I genuinely was like, this guy doesn't like me. But I was doing something stupid. I was standing on top of our van while the hose was going. And I slipped and I fell. And as I was like sliding across the hood, my brother like grabbed me and caught me and stopped me from falling onto the asphalt. And I was like, oh, well, that was weird. So that's actually it was like a nice realization of like, oh, this guy, even though he like teases me all the time, he does care about me in some regard. So here's the joke. I think that the most beautiful thing in the world is the immaturity between two male siblings. When I was younger, I almost drowned. My brother dove into the ocean. He did CPR, he pulled me out. He did CPR, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He basically brought me back to life. And the first thing I said when I came back to consciousness and realized what was going on was, haha, you're gay. That's beautiful. I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that. So that's like, I would say those two events, like that event informed that joke. So that's probably, I would say that's the best example for that answer to that question. Ooh, I cut my own hair.
Really?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that's the reaction. That's why I think people will be surprised. Usually people are like, no. But I've been doing it since I was 21. So 17 years, you get decent. I mean, I still mess up a lot. So this is a week where you go, oh, really? But sometimes people will be like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I will say one of the first times I was able to do that was actually in front of one of the largest audiences I've ever played in front of. I was doing America's Got Talent, and I was at Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, and there was 2,000 people. And my first joke, which I was expecting to get a big pop and normally did, just got like a ha, and I was like, in my mind I was like, shit. But then all I did was I went, and then I went on to the next joke, and just that acknowledgement, that kind of shoulder shrug, was enough to win over the crowd, because they were like, oh, he's here with us. He realizes we didn't laugh at that much, and it kind of, got them on my side. My superpower would be to be a heavy sleeper. I would call myself a happier version of Brett, and I would use my superpower on me. I can't, it's just, there are certain places where I find that more often there are just great crowds. For some reason, North Carolina just has like a crazy high ratio, but it really is like one of the things I love about stand-up is every audience is different. You change one person in that audience, the whole dynamic can change because it's a group psychology. So you never know what instrument you're playing when you get on stage. And so there's just no consistency in certain places. There are certain venues, low ceilings, nice and cold, good sound. All those things are going to influence a higher rate of success and really good, the ideal comedy experience. But it's just not consistent enough for me to be like, this is the place. We came in contact, I think the first time I emailed Steve. I was trying to get away from doing the grind that I didn't feel like was beneficial for me, and my peers were not really with it. I felt like the focus, instead of doing open mics, should have been more on putting content online. And this was like 2000, I want to say 13, 2014, and it really was not the standard. The idea was just get on stage as much as you can, no matter what the stage time is. And so Steve was a guy who I knew of a little bit, and I knew that he had a good YouTube following and that he posted clips a lot. And so I emailed him and I said, hey, I've seen your stuff and I'm wondering, my friends kind of are frowning upon this way I'm allocating my time, and they don't really want to come this direction with me. And do you have any thoughts on this? Do you have any insight? And he just said, I think he said, like, screw what everyone else is doing, do what you think is the best. And then maybe like a month later, I saw him on the subway, and which was weird because he had already moved to LA at that point, I believe. And so it was just like a crazy run-in. He happened to be in New York. I saw him on the subway and I was like, Steve? And he was like, oh yeah, Brett. So we had like a nice conversation, and it wasn't for a while that I got an opportunity. Once I won his scholarship, the first Martin grant, he asked me if I wanted to open for him, and I would say it wasn't even like an instant fit. It was maybe like 2 weeks of going out on the road together before we were like really gelled and started to open up to each other and kind of really get along.
Thanks.
Ooh, that is really tough. Yeah, I mean, it's different from, if it's Mount Rushmore, that feels like I owe more to everybody in comedy. If it's my Mount Rushmore, that's different. My Mount Rushmore, okay. So it's probably gonna be, we're gonna say Flight of the Conchords is their one. That's one's face there. Mitch Hedberg. Chris Rock and Carlin.
Pretty nice.
It's a pretty eclectic.
And if you couldn't put the Mount Rushmore on a mountain, what would you put it on?
Oh, I'll probably just get it tattooed on my chest.
Like full chest?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I can do that, so now I have to make good on it.
We know a guy.
Ooh, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm gonna say I would switch lives with Hassan Minhaj, and I would find out which of his truths are really emotional truths and which ones are truths. That was a joke. I would probably switch with, I don't know, I think I would love to see what it was like to be a Catskill comedian. So maybe like a Henny Youngman or really anybody in that, just to see what that life was like. I mean, it's probably awful, but I just would be curious. Oh, I know what this is. I was running a show in Jersey City, and the way the room was set up, there was only room for one table up front. And so we would always put the people who had reservations up front. But when they didn't show up, the show would start, and then we just had an empty front row. We had an empty table. So there was a party of Katzman, I think was the last name. And because I was running the show, I knew who was supposed to be there and didn't show up. And I got on stage when it was time to do my set, and there was a lit candle there. And I said, no front table. Thanks a lot, Katzman. And I picked up the candle and I blew it out, and hot wax blew right back in my face. And I mean, luckily I found it hilarious and so did the audience, but I had to then wipe the drying wax off of my face like throughout my set. Like, I kept doing jokes and being like, there's still more. It was like both hilarious and mortifying at the same time. I was having like an out-of-body experience.
Good candle before.
Matt Jenkins, for sure. I mean, he's my best friend, but he's also like one of my favorite joke writers. He just makes me laugh every time I watch him on stage. There's another comic named Taj Osorio. He's just like a uniquely funny person that I have trouble kind of even like understanding how he's being funny. It's just so unique to him. How big is this tour?
It's your tour.
Okay. I'm gonna think. This is hard. There's a lot of people.
We're gonna go home and do it with these people too. So.
Okay, good. I think actually Taj, unfortunately, I don't think he stopped doing comedy, and I would still have him on the tour. That's how funny he is. Who's somebody more people should know that I'd love to have on the tour? And Jarrett Berenstein. Let's see. Well, one thing I discovered is that like Canadian politeness really ends on the road. That's when I see your true nature. Yeah, that felt unique. Because I'm like, I know you're pretending when you're being nice and, oh, sorry. But when you're driving, you don't have words. You just have the communication of what you're doing. I could see you're assholes.
He's figured this out. Well, thank you so much, Brett, for taking the time to sit down.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is a delight.
Thank you for coming to Canada, and have a great
pleasure.
show tonight.
Thanks, man.